There is a moment, suspended between breath and action, when your hand hovers before a closed door. The wood grain becomes a map of hesitation. Your fingers curl, uncurl. The air grows heavy with unspoken words. This is the doorway of longing, not a physical threshold, but the space between wanting and having, between reaching and retreating. The heart knows this place intimately. It is where we stand when love feels both possible and perilous. Behind every closed door of the heart, a silent battle unfolds. Between the yearning to connect and the terror of surrendering to exposure. The paradox of vulnerability reveals itself here. The very thing that could bridge us to another becomes the barrier we cannot cross. We ache for intimacy, yet fear its consequences. We crave being known, yet dread being seen. This is the human condition distilled to its essence, the simultaneous pull toward and push away from emotional nakedness. What if the doorway itself holds the answer, not in crossing it, but in understanding why we hesitate at its threshold? The longing is not for what lies beyond, but for the courage to stand here, fully present in our uncertainty. The door remains closed not because we lack the key, but because we fear what opening it might reveal about ourselves. And so we linger in the liminal space, where hope and dread dance their eternal waltz. Vulnerability wears two faces, one that beckons connection, another that warns of danger. This is the psychological paradox at the heart of human intimacy. The same emotional exposure that allows for deep bonding also opens us to potential wounding. Attachment theory reveals how our earliest relationships shape this delicate balance. The child who reaches for comfort learns whether the world will respond with warmth or withdrawal. These patterns become neural pathways, etched into our nervous systems. We carry them into adulthood as unconscious blueprints for love. The anxious heart learns to amplify its needs, fearing abandonment. The avoidant heart learns to minimize its desires, fearing engulfment. Both are adaptations to the same fundamental dilemma: how to get close without getting hurt. Polyvagal theory shows us the physiological underpinnings of this dance. When we approach vulnerability, our autonomic nervous system assesses safety. The social engagement system seeks connection, while the defensive systems prepare for threat. We are wired for both intimacy and self-protection. The doorway of longing exists at the intersection of these competing impulses. It is where our evolutionary need for belonging meets our psychological need for safety. The dread we feel is not irrational. It is the body's wisdom remembering past wounds. The melancholic longing is not weakness. It is the soul's recognition of what could be. Both are valid responses to the profound risk of emotional exposure. This setup is not about solving the paradox, but about honoring its complexity. The doorway is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be understood. Let us walk deeper into the psychology of this threshold. The doorway of longing operates on multiple levels simultaneously: neurological, emotional, relational. Each layer reveals another facet of our complex relationship with vulnerability. At the neurological level, vulnerability triggers what psychologists call approach-avoidance conflict. The brain's reward centers light up at the possibility of connection, while the amygdala sounds alarms about potential rejection. We are literally pulled in two directions by competing biological imperatives. Attachment styles become the lenses through which we interpret this conflict. The securely attached see vulnerability as an opportunity. The insecurely attached see it as a threat. Yet even secure attachment requires courage, the willingness to risk disappointment for the chance of genuine connection. Defense mechanisms emerge as our psychological armor. We intellectualize our feelings to keep them at a safe distance. We project our fears onto others to avoid facing them in ourselves. We rationalize our withdrawal as independence rather than fear. The doorway becomes a stage where our internal dramas play out. The child who was told, "Don't be so sensitive," learns to armor their heart. The adult who experienced betrayal learns to guard their trust. These are not character flaws. They are survival strategies. Yet the longing persists. It whispers through our defenses, reminding us of what we're missing. This is the melancholic ache, the recognition that our protections come at a cost. The walls we build to keep pain out also keep intimacy out. Modern psychology offers us compassion for this dilemma. Internal family systems theory suggests we're not broken, but protecting vulnerable parts. Polyvagal theory shows our nervous system is doing its job, assessing safety in a world that has wounded us before. The exploration reveals that the doorway is not static. It shifts with our emotional state, our past experiences, our current relationships. Some days it feels like an invitation, other days like a fortress wall. This variability is not inconsistency, it is responsiveness. The doorway adapts to our capacity for vulnerability in each moment. It respects our boundaries while still holding space for possibility. The deepest insight emerges when we stop trying to force the door open or keep it closed. The doorway itself becomes the teacher. It shows us where we're ready to grow and where we need to heal. In this exploration, we discover that longing is not the problem, it's the compass. It points toward what our soul needs to flourish, even when our mind resists the journey. Now we arrive at the emotional turning point. The intellectual understanding settles into something deeper, a felt recognition in the heart. The theories become lived experience. We begin to see our hesitation not as failure, but as wisdom. The door remains closed, not because we're cowardly, but because some part of us knows we're not yet ready for what lies beyond. This is self-protection, not self-sabotage. The reflection brings compassion for our complex humanity. We understand that the person who fears vulnerability is the same person who craves connection. These are not contradictory. They are two sides of the same precious coin. We start to notice the subtle ways we approach the doorway, the tentative knock, the brief opening followed by quick retreat, the moments of courage followed by periods of consolidation. This is not inconsistency, it is pacing. The melancholic longing transforms from something painful to something sacred. It becomes the evidence of our capacity for deep feeling. The ache is not emptiness, it is the space where love wants to grow. We reflect on past moments when we did cross thresholds, the vulnerability that led to genuine connection, the risks that paid off in intimacy. And we also honor the times when retreat was the right choice, when self-protection preserved our dignity. This reflection is not about judging our patterns, but understanding their origins. The child who learned to hide their needs to avoid burdening others. The adolescent who built walls after heartbreak. These adaptations served us then. The question is whether they still serve us now. The doorway becomes a mirror. It shows us not just what we fear, but what we value. Our resistance to vulnerability reveals how much connection matters to us. The intensity of our longing measures the depth of our capacity for love. In this quiet reflection, we stop fighting the paradox. we learn to hold both the yearning and the fear with equal tenderness. They are not enemies. They are dance partners in the complex choreography of human relationship. The resolution arrives not as an answer, but as a different way of being with the question. The doorway of longing is not something to be conquered, but something to be inhabited with awareness. We realize that the threshold itself is where life happens most fully. It is in the tension between safety and risk that we discover who we are. The moments of hesitation contain profound self-knowledge. The paradox of vulnerability transforms from a problem to a teacher. It shows us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to feel afraid and still approach the door. Authenticity is not about having no defenses, but about knowing why we defend. The resolution brings a quiet acceptance of our human complexity. We are both strong and vulnerable, independent and interconnected, self-protective and open-hearted. These are not contradictions. They are the rich tapestry of being fully human. The doorway remains, but our relationship to it changes. We no longer see it as a barrier to overcome, but as a sacred space to honor. Each approach, each hesitation, each moment of courage becomes part of our growth. The melancholic longing finds its place in the ecology of our emotions. It becomes the gentle reminder of our capacity for depth, the quiet witness to our unfolding. The ache is not something to be cured, but something to be listened to. In the end, we understand that the real journey was never about getting through the door. It was about learning to stand at the threshold with compassion for ourselves and others. It was about recognizing that every heart contains its own doorway of longing. And perhaps that recognition is the deepest connection of all. Knowing that in our shared vulnerability, we are never truly alone at the threshold. The doorway becomes not a place of isolation, but a meeting place of human hearts. All yearning, all fearing, all hoping together in the quiet spaces between.